Puddle Lane, Jeremy Mouse and Mr. Puffle. Jeremy Mouse and Mr. Puffle. The wide-awake mice were toy mice in Mr. Wide-awake's toy shop. One evening, a magician came into the shop. He didn't see the wide-awake mice, but he spilt some magic dust all over them. That night, when the moon shone down, the wide-awake mice came alive. They escaped from the shop, through a hole under the door, and they ran across the square to the market. They climbed up a post and found a safe place to live on a shelf under the roof. This story tells you about what happened to Jeremy Mouse when he met Mr. Puffle. The wide-awake mice. Jeremy Mouse woke up. It was still dark in the shadows under the roof, but the sun was shining down on the square outside the market building. Jeremy Mouse woke up. Jeremy went to the edge of the shelf and looked down into the market below. There were people in the market. They had set up tables all around the wall and piled the tables with good things to eat. Jeremy Mouse looked down. Jeremy felt very hungry. He was just going to climb down a post when someone behind him said, "Who are you? And whatever are you doing in those clothes?" Jeremy looked up. He saw a mouse looking out of a hole over his head. "I'm Jeremy," he said. "I always wear clothes. I'm a wide-awake mouse from Mr. Wide-awake's toy shop." Jeremy looked up. He saw a mouse. The little mouse climbed down onto the shelf beside Jeremy. "You won't be wide awake very long if you wear things like that," he said. "You'll never be able to run fast enough if Tom Cat sees you." Jeremy looked down at his clothes. "Do you think I should take them off?" he said. "I should," said the little mouse. "Tom Cat could catch hold of them, and then where would you be?" "I don't know," said Jeremy. "Where would I be?" Jeremy and the little mouse. "I'll tell you," said the mouse. "You'd be inside Tom Cat before you could squeak twice. I'm Chestnut Mouse, and I know." Jeremy pulled off his clothes. "It does feel better without them," he said. "It's much safer," said Chestnut. Jeremy pulled off his clothes. "Do you live here?" asked Jeremy. "No," said Chestnut. "I live in the magician's garden at the end of Puddle Lane. But I always come here on Fridays. They have cheese and nuts in the market on Fridays. Come and see." Jeremy looked down. He looked at one of the tables. There was a big cheese at one end of the table and a basket of nuts at the other end. Jeremy looked down. Jeremy felt very hungry, and he could smell lovely smells coming up from the market below. Chestnut ran down a post, and Jeremy followed him. Chestnut and Jeremy ran down a post. "Keep close to me," whispered Chestnut. "It can be dangerous down here." He led the way along by the wall and under the table. Jeremy saw two big feet standing not far away. Jeremy didn't know it, but the two big feet belonged to Mr. Puffle. Mr. Puffle lived in Puddle Lane. Jeremy saw two big feet. Mr. Puffle was buying some cheese. The man at the table cut off a big slice of cheese from Mr. Puffle. A crumb of cheese broke off. It rolled off the table and fell on Mr. Puffle's foot. The cheese fell on Mr. Puffle's foot. Mr. Puffle's foot was close to Jeremy's nose. Jeremy smelt the cheese. He ran up onto Mr. Puffle's foot and began to eat it. Jeremy ran up onto Mr. Puffle's foot. Mr. Puffle looked down and saw Jeremy Mouse on his shoe. Mr. Puffle gave a great shout. Jeremy was very frightened. He hid under Mr. Puffle's trouser leg. Mr. Puffle looked down and saw Jeremy Mouse. Jeremy hid. Mr. Puffle gave another shout. "There's a mouse on my foot! There's a mouse on my foot!" he cried. "He's hiding under my trousers!" Mr. Puffle hopped about on one foot, waving his other foot in the air. Mr. Puffle hopped on one foot. Jeremy was very frightened. He saw Mr. Puffle's leg. He thought Mr. Puffle's leg looked just like a post, so he ran up the leg to Mr. Puffle's knee. Jeremy ran up Mr. Puffle's leg. Mr. Puffle gave another great shout. "It's run up my leg," he cried. "It's run up my leg." "Shake your leg," cried the man with the cheese. "Shake your leg hard." Mr. Puffle hopped about on one foot, shaking his other leg. Mr. Puffle hopped on one foot. Mr. Puffle shook so hard that Jeremy had to let go. He fell down Mr. Puffle's leg and landed on his shoe. Jeremy fell down Mr. Puffle's leg. Mr. Puffle saw Jeremy Mouse on his shoe. He gave a great kick. Jeremy flew. He flew through the air and landed on top of the low wall around the market. Jeremy flew. As quick as a flash, Jeremy ran up the post. He hid in the dark on the shelf. Jeremy ran up the post and hid. "What are you doing, Jeremy?" said a voice behind him. Jeremy looked around. It was Grandmother Mouse. "I was hungry," said Jeremy. "I went down to get something to eat. It was very exciting." "I expect it was," said Grandmother Mouse. "A bit too exciting. We'll go down tonight when the people have gone. That's the best time for a mouse to be in the market." Jeremy and Grandmother Mouse. Chestnut Mouse.